Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Monday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and it's been a couple of days since we've talked, and in the process, the Mets have played the best team in baseball and have played them extremely well, despite losing 2 out of 3 games to the Boston Red Sox. Also, since the last time we talked, the Mets swept a doubleheader against the Marlins, first time in comeback fashion, with 2 back-to-back 9th inning home runs by Conforto and Frazier. And mixed in between all of that was some decent pitching, some unbelievably great pitching, and some mediocre pitching. So I'm going to talk about all of that, bring us up to speed as to where we are now, and do all of that on today's show. Trying to go in order from last Thursday. Yeah, the Thursday doubleheader to today. The Thursday doubleheader was a twin bill that was started by Matz in Game 1 and Vargas in Game 2. And lo and behold, the Mets won both of those games against the Marlins. So by the end of the homestand, the Mets were 9 games under 500. And that was sort of like a not to use the term high watermark, but that was like the best they've been in a while. And you know, the interesting part about it is that 9 games out of 500 isn't as terrible as 15 games below 500. It's not respectable, but it's not terrible. And it was sort of like, I was thinking in my head, okay, look, this is basically the same team that had that 11-1 run to start the season. Maybe they can do the same at the end of the year, sort of bookend with positives, and finish the season near 500. That would be fantastic. Then the Mets went into Boston, and they played the Red Sox. And you know, Friday night, I'm watching the game Friday night, and I'm like, damn. This is legit. The Mets look pretty good, and Noah Syndergaard looked fantastic on Friday night. The Mets bats came to life big time, put up 8 runs, hit 4 home runs in the game, including a grand slam from Jay Bruce, including a home run from my new favorite player, Jeff McNeil. So a lot of offense on Friday in Boston, but the well sort of dried up on Saturday. And sorry, I was just passing a sanitation truck. Want to pay attention. So yeah, the well kind of dried up on Saturday and continued on Sunday with the Red Sox pitching sort of stifling the Mets bats. But you know, the run differential in the series, if that means anything to you analytical folk out there, 8 for the Mets on Friday, 0 for the Red Sox. 3 for the Mets on Saturday, 5 for the Red Sox. So that's 11-5. 3 for the Mets on Sunday, 4 for the Red Sox. So that's 14-9. The Mets outscored the Red Sox. Again, it's a small victory, but it's a sign that this team is competing. And for me, that's all I'm looking for going down the stretch. Speaking of Boston, I was there this past weekend with the 7-Line Army. And I have to say, there are a lot of detractors, a lot of people that don't like the 7-Line, don't like the 7-Line Army, and don't get behind the events that the group does. And that's cool, that's fine. But I gotta tell you, there is nothing like being at a game with 1,600 people, 1,629 to be exact, all cheering in unison, all positive, all behind the team. And you might not even know the majority of the people there, and there's just this connection, there's just this energy that you feel with the group. And for me, it's worth anything. I think it's the most fun that you can have at a game, unless of course you're going with a whole group of friends. So for me, when I usually go to games, it's usually with my brother or my friend, one of my friends named Mike, both of whom are Mets fans. And it's usually just the 2 of us. You know, I rarely go with more people. Sometimes I'll go with my dad and my mom and the kids, and maybe my brother and his sister-in-law and my wife and whatever. But it's usually not a big group of friends for me. That's for my personal experience. So going with the 7 line is sort of my connection there with like the big group of friends that goes. This group of fans happens to be a lot larger than than the typical group. But I think more important than anything else with the Seven Line Army was the pregame walk to the park. I'm going to try to upload some video of that as part of this, and I'm going to do that right here if I'm able to.
Let's go Mets! 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 Let's go Mets!
We got you, yo. There you go. Yeah! Put that back on. Put that back on. This is nice. Yeah.
Stay under here for a little bit.
You are ready. Oh, you got a bigger beard than you want. Oh, I'm already category 5.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
All right, one more time. I don't do this shit, brother. Oh, boo! Boo! You have cars. You have cars.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Woo!
Who you with? There you go, baby! Woo!
So the march was about a mile, a little less than a mile from the bar to the stadium, and it was unlike anything I'd ever been a part of before. I did the march in Milwaukee, which was tame compared to this one. The interesting part about this is that we were sort of like walking down what seemed to be open streets and across open streets, and we were sort of like walking in and out of traffic, and traffic was sort of stopped because we were walking. It was surreal. It truly was surreal. I don't know if we were legal or not or whatever, but it was pretty amazing. And I understand that Gary and Keith had the broadcast on Saturday, and they even mentioned the Seven Line. I think that marks the very first time that SNY has ever mentioned a group by name. They usually just very vaguely, and honestly, it's always bothered me. They always sort of like vaguely said, "Oh, a large contingent of Mets fans. The Mets really travel well," and that's true. The Mets do travel well, and Mets fans do travel well, but nothing like the Seven Line Army. And it was cool to see, or to hear rather, that Gary and Keith mentioned the group by name on the broadcast on Saturday. So again, the game was a blast. It was my first time at Fenway. It was an unbelievable experience. The Mets lost. Oswalt pitched. 2 2/3 innings. Bullpen came in, gave up the lead. It happens. But back to yesterday, because it's worth mentioning once again, Jacob deGrom is an absolute wizard. He had 12 strikeouts yesterday. He raised his ERA. He raised his ERA to 1.71 on the season. And I don't care what his record is. He got a no decision. The Mets actually bailed him out for a change. Moved him from what would have been 2 games under 500 to remain at 1 game under with the no decision. He is 8-9 still for the season. And he still, as far as my money goes, is the #1 candidate for the Cy Young, and I don't think I'm being biased. I'm curious though, am I being biased? You know, are there people out there who believe that Scherzer or Nola should win the award, and not just because of wins? I really don't want that to be the argument. Well, he had more wins. Well, who gives a shit? You know, Lucas Giolito has an ERA hovering around 6 and has more wins than deGrom. Does it make him a better pitcher? Does that categorize him higher than Jacob deGrom? I think not. So I think I said that last week, so sorry for the broken record there, but it's annoying, and that can't be the reason. So if I'm on the wrong track, if I am being biased, let me know why. I'd love to hear about it. You can do it in the comment section below, where you can reach me on Twitter at Mr_Met. So that's going to wrap it up for today. I do appreciate your watching. As always, it's a lot of fun. And I had a lot of fun in Boston, and I'm looking forward to having a lot of fun with the 7-Line Army this coming weekend in Washington, D.C. for our makeup game of the snow out that never happened. But in any event, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. And as always, let's go Mets.